Newton Minnow's idea of good TV for kids is what's known as educational TV, like Mr. Wizard.
That's what all the kids in the neighborhood call him, because he shows them the magic and mystery of science in everyday living.
For the defense, Mike Dan, head of programming at CBS.
It would be pretty hard to have convinced Newt Minow that even Bugs Bunny or the Three Stooges or Car 54 or Father Knows Best or the Flintstones had any redeeming characteristics. We, of course, took a different point of view.
Well, after all, I am a graduate of MIT, the Moose Institute of Toe Dancing.
I would say that Newton Minow's speech was entirely ignored. Nothing was done. Absolutely nothing was done.
To maintain a flexibility of response.
And meanwhile, there is more on television to worry about, like reality.
We will use nuclear weapons whenever we feel it necessary to protect our vital interests. Our nuclear...
The scariest program on television, the network news.
Fallout levels from Russia's nuclear explosions.
On September 1st, the Soviets start testing atomic bombs in the atmosphere. Because of Berlin, they say. The U.S. resumes underground tests. Because of the Soviets, we say. And we trace fallout patterns and worry and think about digging bomb shelters for the children's sake. Down in Rome, Georgia, Cherry Birdsong already has 3 children and a shelter.
Miss Birdsong, would you tell us why you're going into the shelter for a week?
Yes, of course, I hope this country is never attacked, but in the event that it is, I would like to be able to know how to live in the shelter.
It seemed like every paper we picked up almost, they were asking people to build fallout shelters and be prepared. We decided it was of no use unless we really knew how to live in it. I was the logical one to go down and really see how it would be.
I'm alone because I love you. Love you with all my heart. I'm alone because I had to be true.
It was a comfort to know that it was there and that I had done that and that I knew a little bit about living down there. And it could be done.
Where have all the flowers gone? Long time passing.
A new political movement takes shape under the threat of a mushroom-shaped cloud. Man the bomb, it says, and sings. And a new musical movement takes shape behind the politics. It includes this struggling group, Peter, Paul, and Mary.
When will they have a land? It was time to say we don't want war, but we weren't referring to a specific war. We were referring to the possibility of nuclear war and to the reality of underground bomb shelters being built all over the country. And where have all the young men gone? Long time passing. Where have all the young men gone? Long time ago. Where have all the young men gone? Gone for soldiers, everyone. Oh, when will they ever learn? Oh, when will they ever learn?
In September of 1961, a young singer turned up at Folk City in New York and got rave reviews, noting that the 20-year-old Bob Dylan looked like a cross between a choir boy and a beatnik. The Times critic said that Dylan's music had the mark of originality and inspiration. Come back to our world and to some Americans up against the wall in Berlin and Southeast Asia. They were young too.
Come back to Up Against the Wall, August, October 1961, when our world continues.
Welcome back to Our World. It's 1961, and it's that time of year when summer turns to fall, or as sometimes happens, when summer confronts fall. Change is rarely a graceful operation. For instance, we face a crisis in Berlin, another in the South, another in Southeast Asia, not to mention the bomb. Still, our president, John Kennedy, points out that when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger, the other represents opportunity.
Two continents were aglow with brush fires that season. In Vietnam, the Viet Cong guerrillas were winning hearts and minds and villages from the Diem government. The United Nations had troops in the Congo fighting for the central government against the province of Katanga. White mercenaries fought for Katanga. Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN Secretary General, was killed in a plane crash in September on a mission to mediate that crisis. And then, of course, there was that wall we were up against in Berlin.
The wall is finished. The crisis is not. As summer ends and fall begins, the Soviet pressure on the Allied garrison increases. American troops in Germany are training for combat. In America, Kennedy asks for and gets a huge increase in the military budget. In August, he begins to call up the reserves. More than 200,000 reservists are ordered to report for combat training. Among the 76,000 called up for a year's active duty, Company B of the 101st Signal Battalion, Yonkers, New York.
You know, the Eisenhower years were over. I saw JFK coming in, new kid on the block in the international affairs, and he was being tested.
At Fort Devens, Massachusetts, they trained to fight in Europe and recorded on film. There's even a song written about the call-up.
But I'll go for God, country, and my baby. You know I have to go, and dear, I'll miss you so.
We didn't know where we were going and how long we were going to be away. So we got up there and then we found out that we might be shipped overseas. We had the training, we had good officers that trained us well, and we were ready to go. And if we had to go fight, we'd go fight.
Well, we knew we were going. There was a mission for us, and our equipment was in Germany, and we had 8 weeks, what they called intensified training at that time, to get them ready to go to Germany. And they were ready.
And when the Soviets begin to restrict Western access to East Berlin, it looks as if there might be a war to go to. On October 27th, American tanks move into place at Checkpoint Charlie, one of the crossings. For one day, U.S. and Soviet tanks face off. It is close, real close. But on the 28th, the tanks are withdrawn. That is one wall we've come up against, but not gone through. There are other walls. The Soviets support what they call wars of liberation. And all around the world, these wars pit American interests against Soviet interests. This is true in the Congo, in Laos, and in Vietnam. Walt Rostow helped Kennedy figure out what to do.
The Soviets felt this was an interval of historical opportunity, and they pushed very hard where opportunity offered.
In Southeast Asia, there's plenty of opportunity. We send advisors, money, and guns to Laos and Vietnam. We are not, we say, propping up dictators. We are, we say, fighting the expansion of communism. By October, the war isn't going well for South Vietnam, our side. Kennedy asked his military advisor, General Maxwell Taylor, and Walt Rostow, to go to Vietnam to look hard and then give him some advice.